and a bright and shining dawn whose flame is still burning. It's more than just a place, it's a vision and a dream, a beacon of hope for those who would be free. Beacon of hope for those who would be free. That's what it's about. It's the American dream. I get sick and tired of people going across the overseas, won't mention names, but the initials of Barack Obama apologizing for being an American. If America was such a terrible place, why is everybody doing everything they can to get here? Don't misunderstand what I'm saying. You want to get 50 Cubans in a paper cup? Tell them it floats. You want to get 100 Cubans in a paper cup? Tell them it floats and it's heading north to Miami. We're building walls to keep folks out, trying to. Some of you veterans, I know, I was in the Cold War. I sit there at the Fulda Gap. I'd hear people die trying to escape their countries to come to freedom. Heard machine gun fire. No, people die to come to freedom. It's a special privilege to be an American. It is an honor to be an American. As a first an Army brat and then a soldier myself, I had some really neat opportunities. Got to do some really neat things and see some interesting things and some tough things. But I remember right after I graduated from high school, you know, we went to Normandy Beach for the anniversary of D-Day. And we got there the day after D-Day. We hit the little town of Arromanches where the D-Day Museum is and where the British landed, Gold Beach. It's a beautiful little fishing village right there on the coast, and there's the town square opens up on the beach where the British landed. We got there and they had all these French school children gathered there for Liberation Day, celebrating D-Day. Now I want to tell you something. I had an uncle who was killed in France in 1944, liberating France. He hits a beach in Utah on D-Day. He was in the 90th Infantry Division. They landed right after, later on in the day. He was killed in November 1944, 19 years old. Whenever I think of Normandy, whenever I think of World War II in Europe, I think of my Uncle Ralph. I never met him. When my grandmother died, they gave me his Purple Heart and certificate. It's one of my most prized possessions. So here we are, we're going down this French village, and there's thousands of French school children all gathered in the square. We're driving this big 72 Chevy station wagon, like a tank. And Dad's trying to drive through and kind of part in the waters, you know, and I'll never forget this little French girl, she's a blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl. She stood out in the crowd. She looked and she saw this car, and she's kind of curious. And she realized the American car. She looked at it kind of funny, and she looked down and saw the U.S. Armed Forces license plates, and she said, wait, look, American. And she grabbed the girl next to her. It's American. The little girl, what? She looked, she saw American. She got American. Next thing you know, there were thousands of French school children screaming, Viva l'Americans, long live the Americans. That's what being an American is. Several years later, I got called out to a place called Grenada. There was some trouble down there. We got sent down there to clean it up. And after the main fighting was over, it didn't last long. People make fun of it because it didn't last long. This, of all the things I did in the military, it's one of the things I'm the proudest of, because after the fighting was over, about 3 days into it, we're sitting there by our gun one night, and they let the Grenadian people out. They've been locked up under curfew, 24-hour curfew, before we got there, that their government would shoot them on sight if they were seen outside their homes. And so finally we thought it was safe. There's still some sniper fire and stuff, but they finally said it was safe to let them out of their house so they could get some food and water. And the people were dancing in the streets, and we're sitting there one night in our position listening to the folks in the village below us singing and dancing. And there was a song they were singing that seemed familiar. And we're trying to place it, because you know it's all calypso and Caribbean in the accent. We're trying to catch it. And finally one of the guys says, gee, Sergeant Wood, they're singing God Bless America. Think about it. Think about it. Wherever I went overseas, when I was wearing the uniform of my country, the kids flocked around us because they knew what American soldier meant. We were always good for a chocolate bar or a piece of gum, because that's what being an American is. During the Gulf War, I sit there, saw the Iraqi prisoners surrendering to American soldiers, and I'll never forget, they're on their hands and knees begging for mercy. And this one American soldier, I was so proud, he says, "It's okay, you're safe, we're Americans." It's a privilege to be in this country. It was a dream. It's a dream. 200 years ago, 56 men gathered in a hot room in Philadelphia. And they began putting their names to a document that when they signed it, it was their death warrant. By signing that document, that Declaration of Independence, they're signing, that's treason. You know what Franklin said? He signed it and says, "Now we must surely hang together, or we'll hang separately." Because it's treason. No doubt, you can't say I didn't do it. It's your signature there. And they didn't. You heard what Don said with some of them suffered? It was a dream. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal. That's the dream. It's the dream. All people have an even chance to succeed or fail. It's a place where you're judged by the content of your character and nothing else. And we failed the dream sometimes. We stumbled, but we keep going, don't we? We pick ourselves up. And yeah, you can point at our mistakes. You can point at all the bad things that happen. That's what happens when people get involved. We mess things up, don't we? But we've always held true to the dream. And now we're at a crossroads, folks. I really believe we're at a crossroads. What kind of country we're going to have? And you say, what can I do? Well, 56 guys did something. Amen?
Amen.
Lady lived about 40 years ago, Madeline Murray O'Hara. She's one woman who made a difference. One woman. Changed America. What can we do? Well, we still live in America. We still live in a place where we can tell the folks, our leaders, because our leaders are servants to all of us, aren't they? Amen? They work for us, don't they? They don't do what we want them to do. We vote the bums out. Throw them out. And if the new batch don't do it, we'll throw them out till we get a batch who'll listen. Amen? Amen or oh me. That's what this day's about. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. Sing it with me. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest to the Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. As I was walking that ribbon of highway, I saw around me the endless skyway, and all around me a voice was singing, this land was made for you and me. This land is your land, this land is my land, from California to the New York Island, from the Redwood Forest, Gulf Stream waters. This land was made for you and me. Nobody living can ever stop me as I walk down that old ribbon of highway. Then nobody living can ever stop me. This land is made for you and me.